ready for Christmas. And so order short.
Okay.
So just so you're clear.
And then it's-
I have little Santa
And is
Fe
it,
plates
would you,
with
probably an obvious question, but
handprints
it's accurate
on
to say that the person that he has hired to help with this work is someone who's done this type of work in the past. The person who at least is hired, Kristen, person in the meeting minute, she's, I mean, I get into it, but I kind of wanted to point out that somebody with some expertise has been brought in to do this work.
Yes, I think that's fair statement, and that, you know, you might say even during the conversation, how much she agreed with whatever.
Did you make that, Jennifer?
Just to get that.
I'd like to say yes, but no.
I'm trying.
Okay, we're looking for that question on the last name.
Lee, is Lee gonna be here? Do we? Lee, as
He's
far as you know?
not,
Okay,
he's
he's not on the phone,
He's
okay.
had COVID, so.
Oh,
he's
okay.
not- I know.
It's wonderful for you.
It is, and he was sick of the whole week.
They just.
Yes, there's an S on it.
Thank you.
She's
Okay.
a corner student. And this is
All right.
what she does, and she shows them.
Really?
So, she delivered that to me yesterday. It was huge. Yes.
All right, that's okay. I was just waiting for you to finish your thoughts. All right, welcome everyone. It's 1:00 or 1:01, and I'm Jean Cook, Chair of the Mississippi Charter School Authorizer Board, and this regularly scheduled meeting of the MCSAB is being held today, Monday, December 12th, 2022 at 1 p.m. in person and with some members. We don't have any members on teleconference today. Okay. Pursuant to Mississippi Code annotated 2541-5, notice of this meeting, which included the date, time, place, and purpose of the meeting, and identify the location made available to the public, has been posted. An audio recording is being made of this meeting, and minutes of this meeting are being recorded. And this meeting is being called to order at 1:02 p.m. Monday, December 12th. At first, I just want to welcome Marcy Scoggins, who's our newest board member, who hasn't officially been sworn in yet, so you can't vote today, but you're here, and we're so happy to have you. And and feel free to ask whatever questions you have as we go along. So first, we'll move on to the establishment of a quorum. As I call the names of the board members, please state the location of your presence for the meeting. I'm Jean Cook, and I'm present in the Charter Board boardroom. Lee Durrett, not here today. Don Hinton.
Here, Jackson.
Kimberly Remack.
Here, President Bordering.
Okay. Candace Robbins.
Present here in the boardroom.
Okay. Jennifer Whittier.
Present in the boardroom.
A quorum is present and the location stated for conducting a meeting in person and through teleconference meetings. So first, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, which Jennifer will lead, and then invocation that Candace will lead.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this opportunity that we get to serve our great state of Mississippi. I ask that you would, during this time, that you would give us wisdom and discernment as we are navigating through voting and the other things that need to take place. We just ask that you would bless our time and allow us to use our time well as also in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay. Now I'll read the mission of the Charter School Authorizer Board. The mission of the Mississippi Charter School Authorizer Board is to authorize high-quality charter schools, particularly schools designed to expand opportunities for underserved students. Now we'll move on to the adoption of the agenda. I will entertain a motion for approval of today's agenda, and please identify yourself for the record.
I make that motion. I'm Kimberly Remack.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second, Candace
Okay,
Robbins.
thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We're going to move on to the approval of the minutes of the September 26, 2022 regularly scheduled monthly meeting. You've all received a copy of those minutes, and I will entertain a motion for approval.
So moved, Jennifer Whittier.
Right, and a second.
Moved,
Okay.
Kimberly.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Now we have approval of the minutes of the October 7th special call meeting. And you've received a copy of those minutes as well. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved, Jennifer Whittier.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Moving on to the chair report. The only thing I report is Dr. Comacharya and I met on Friday with Elise Marcelino from Embark, and you may be familiar with Embark. It's an arm of Empower Mississippi, and they've gotten some funding through several means to support charter applicants through the application process. So we met with Elise and somebody she's hired has extensive background in this work, and it was good. They had some questions about the application, clarifying questions, and the colleague who she hired she and Dr. Comacharya had a lot of seeing eye to eye, I guess, and common understanding of what goes on in other states and what we have in our application. And so I was really encouraged by it. It's great to know that there's an organization that's going to be actively helping applicants through the application process to get them kind of where they need to be the first time around, we hope. And so, we agreed that we would continue these conversations, and any questions they have or we have, we can continue that. So that concludes my report.
Okay.
All right, now move on to the executive director report.
Okay, thank you. As always, first of all, I want to say welcome to our guests who are here today. We appreciate you guys being here. It's good to see you. Of course, thank you to all the board members who are here today in person. It's always like to have everybody in person. It makes for a better and an easier meeting. First two items under my report are standard items with respect to number 1 or A. That's just your MCSAB newsletters. I like to always include a copy of that in your board packet so you can see the information that the schools are getting on a monthly basis, links to resources for grants, just monthly reminders, just a host of information that each of the schools get monthly. And then item B is your statement of economic interest. And as you know, as board members, you're all responsible for completing that on an annual basis. And I noticed Jean has already completed hers. I got a notice right away. So she's already done that. She was the first to make the cut there. And then I do want to remind the board, I did this in an email not too long ago, but I do want to remind the board that we have a commitment to, I'm sorry about the noise, a commitment to the NACSA core principles of authorizing. And that's one of the most important things that we can do is stay in tune with those core principles. As an authorizing board, we want to make sure that everything we do is aligned to those standards and principles that they have. And of those principles, there are 3 primary. 1 is to maintain high standards for schools. 2 is to uphold the school's autonomy. And 3 is to protect the student and the public interest. And if you guys need to move up a little so you can hear, please feel free to. It's so loud. It's been like this for weeks. So I apologize. It's just kind of our world we're living in right now. And I'll try to speak up a little bit louder for you. So the past 2 months have been incredibly busy since I've seen you last, and I just want to be able to fill you in on a few things and update you. Number 1, Bailey has gone back to the Secretary of State's office, and we have yet to have a new appointment from the AG's office for you, for the board, for your appointment. That'll be our 4th appointment in about 4 years. So we've had kind of a rolling AG appointment throughout the time that I've been here. But the good news is that Amy is here, and Amy Tisdale, over to my left, who's waving and saying hello. She has joined the MCSAB team after 14 years working at the Secretary of State's office. Her expertise is in performance contracting, administrative procedures, policy, reviewing contracts, and I have to say she is an incredibly quick study. She has already confirm for us that the schools are not obligated to the reporting for the Literacy-Based Promotion Act. So all of our schools and school leaders that are here today should have received a memo from us saying that, you know what, regardless of what you may hear through the grapevine from MDE, no offense, from MDE, you are not obligated to the reporting. Yes, you have to take the assessments and you're obligated to that, but the other conditions under the Literacy-Based Promotion Act, you're not obligated to that. So that takes a big administrative burden off of the schools, and with Amy's help, we were able to do that research and confirm that. She's also been really helpful in working on the performance framework and interpreting and applying rules appropriately so that when we send out those reports to the schools, they are in compliance with our own business rules and all of the data and information that we have. Going forward, she's going to continue to work with schools on adherence to Open Meetings Act. And she's also going to provide some training for them. We started with Tom Hood doing that training during our back to school meeting. And then she's going to work with governing boards as well, making sure that they understand their obligations, because the contract is with the governing board, with the authorizer. And so making sure that our governing boards have a really solid understanding of what their responsibilities are with respect to the schools, and have a quality relationship with them. And I have to say, Jordan and I are just both super excited to have her. We've been the dynamic duo for past year now, I think. So we're super glad to have more boots on the ground with us. Back a couple of months ago, we attended Revive's ribbon cutting, and the school is absolutely beautiful. And Trey can attest to that. He's back there shaking his head. It is gorgeous. The children were precious. We had little ambassadors that welcomed us, and they were like Vanna White. Welcome. Welcome to River Prep. They were precious, and we got to tour the school and see the kiddos in action and the teachers in action. And then we were there when they dedicated the gym to Mr. Leland Speed, who had made quite a contribution, to Republic Inc. in general, and then of course to the authorizer board as a former board member. So that was really nice to be there for that and to see his family as well. I mentioned the framework reports. We are continuing to work on those diligently. We have completed all of the schools that are in renewal. So all 3 schools in renewal have received their reports. We have met with 2 of those schools. We were waiting on some additional information from one of the schools, and then we have follow-up meetings planned with 2 schools right now. One to discuss some of the reports from MDE. There were some questions about some of the reports and how they were maybe not aligned to some of the other reports, maybe some mismatch in there. And so I have communicated with Alan Burrow, who's at MDE, and he is working on his schedule to try and coordinate that, to make sure that the schools have a complete understanding of what those reports are, where the data comes from, and then where it goes, to inform. There's so many different reports. So some come in a gap report, some come in a net membership, some come in a different report called the school report card. And it pulls data from different pieces and then dumps them into different reports. And so sometimes there's a disconnect in what those numbers might look like, and Alan will be able to help us understand what those disconnects are. So we'll meet with them as soon as we can coordinate calendars. We also have one school who had a cash on hand question that we needed to have some further discussion about, and we just need to know, where is that financial information come from? How are those monies flowing? And then how are they getting out to the schools? They are CMO, and we need to make sure that there is not anything in terms of a commingling of funds, or any of the funds that are going directly to the schools are going in a legal and decent manner. So we'll chase that rabbit and work with the schools on that. Back in October, I attended NACSA and completed my NACSA Leaders Program. So I'm grateful for that. It was a year-long intensive leadership program with a cohort of excellent authorizers from around the nation. I have had several meetings with the Charter School Growth Fund to talk about the work that they are doing in Mississippi and the support that they are already providing for our schools. The peer report is complete and should be coming out soon. I emailed Julie to find out when. She wasn't sure when that was going to drop, but as soon as it drops, it'll make the news, so you all just be prepared. It'll be there. There is nothing negative in it. That looks better every single year. So just know that that's forthcoming. I've had also several meetings with other authorizers, one with who's a former NACSA board member, charter association leaders on a variety of topics, including new school applications, the A Game, which is a national group through the National Charter School Alliance. I think I said that right. There are too many acronyms, but at looking at multiple measures and making sure that we're looking at school quality in an appropriate way and beyond just a test score, right? And then authorizing with communities in mind. I did accept the invitation to work with NACSA on revising our new school application. I got an invitation, a week or so ago to participate in this program. They've selected about 20 authorizers to do this work. And so we will take the research that they've been doing the past year or so on the evolving look of charters, and then we'll be able to hopefully apply that work and that knowledge collectively together, really working at talking about what's working, what's not working in the new school application. It will be free, which will be wonderful because we'll be able to build on all that knowledge, the research, the expertise of my colleagues, and really hopefully put together and build out a solid application because I don't think this one's ever been revised, and it will be 10 years. So we're coming up on 10 years, or 2015 first school was approved, so the application should have been ready prior to that. And to my knowledge, maybe minor adjustments to it, so no major overhauls. It'll keep us in line with best practices and ensure that we meet the needs of the communities, the families, and the children in Mississippi. So I'm excited about that. I am waiting to find out about the A Game, if we've been selected. I sent you guys some information about that as well. To see if we've been selected to participate in the indicators of distress. I spent, I think, a couple of different focus groups informing some of that research that they're building out right now as a follow-up to the original research. And so I applied for us to participate in that, and we'll see they're only selecting 15 authorizers for that one, 15 for the other one, and maybe 6 or 9 for this one. So fingers crossed we'll get in this one and be able to participate and learn from that as well. I am still waiting for an update on the congressionally directed spending grant. You'll remember I wrote a grant back in April, May to Cindy Hyde-Smith's office for 4 of our schools, to 3 of our schools, to take advantage of some additional congressionally directed spending monies. And this would help those schools who are significantly expanding if we get that. It's in there. It's just awaiting approval. So hopefully we'll have some news on that, but subject to final approval and appropriations. But it would be a nice little chunk of money for those schools if we can get that. That was 4 schools. That was 4 schools, wasn't it? It was, yeah. Okay, finally, I want to just remind you that you all know that in early October, we asked the U.S. Department of Education to reconsider our request for a no-cost extension to the CSP grant. And in turn, we were granted a second no-cost extension through a waiver. So we asked them reconsider our no-cost extension, and they said, okay, we'll reconsider that. And we did, in fact, reconsider it. And now we're going to give you that no-cost extension, but it's going to have to come through a waiver. And so the waiver would allow us to continue serving SR1 and Revive Prep. Unfortunately, we're still in a waiting period to determine how much spending and authority and eligibility of our schools. And the last correspondence I had from Ed, actually the director of the CSP programs, she said, and I'm going to quote her here, "At this point, we ask you to please be patient with us as we work with our Office of the General Counsel to determine answers not only to your questions, but questions raised by other stakeholders." So I have to say, because of the actions of a local nonprofit and the U.S. Department of Education, we are unable at this point, 1, to serve the schools that were a part of our CSP grant, and 2, to provide any technical assistance to the schools. So in addition, because of the actions and the contractual obligations that we had prior, and Denise will talk more about this, that we had under the CSP are going to now shift to our budget. So the dollars that we had allocated to spend and use under the CSP for technical assistance are going to shift that burden to our budget. So, which is a financial burden for our authorizer budget. So, as a direct result then of the situation, schools can't access the funds and the support that that is due to them, and it's just frankly egregious. And then we have a budget that is severely limited. So, really unfortunate what happened. I guess that's all, with the exception of I want to say thank you publicly again to Annie and Jordan, who are just rock stars, and both of them. And I'm so glad to have both of them, and so blessed to have them both on my staff. So I appreciate everything that they do and all the support they give. And Denise as well. She's behind the scenes most of the time, but she's certainly a part of the team. And we're glad to have all of you. So. And that ends my report.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the statement of economic interest info, what's the deadline for that we need to complete?
You know what? I don't think there's a deadline. It's sometime in March, May, but I don't know that there's a. Is it May 1st? Denise knows.
But the sooner the better.
I think so. And it's pretty simple. And
Yeah,
there's
it's
a
really,
link.
it's like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, like an online form, yeah.
Do you need a copy or do you need?
Ma'am.
I completed mine the other day.
Oh, okay, good.
I saw the note, but do you need that for this board?
I don't need a copy of it. I just got Jean's heads up that she had completed, but we don't have to keep a copy. It should be on the Secretary of State's website.
Yeah.
Or no, the Ethics Commission. Yeah. It'll be on the Ethics Commission's website, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I
Any
think
other
that's
questions?
it. Any other questions?
Okay. All right, the next is financial report. You're right on time.
You can come up to the table. It might be easier to hear in case they start drilling or
Yes.
again.
Before I get started, I want to say that statement of economic interest. That is one thing that I verify that everybody has done every year as part of your internal control review.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I know the dates.
Oh, okay.
And it's an annual report.
Right.
Not a fiscal year. And I apologize for being late. And I'm gonna ask, Dr. Concher, you did talk about the approvals for the contract yet?
I have not talked about any of the budget other than to allude that we would have some conversation about what the result of that has done to our current budget and where we are. Because we had a late invoice that came in too that certainly has impacted that.
That's right. Well, so since the last time we met, you haven't had much expenditures. The majority of it has been in just routine items, such as the salary that are pre-approved and some contractual items that were pre-approved. So it was about $50,000 expenditure since the last time we met. So we are where we expected it. There was also a travel of about $800. So we're on target where we expected to be. And unless you have any questions, I'd rather just go straight into some of the budget modifications that we're going to make. One of the things that y'all did when we set up this budget is you put in a $250,000 budget for items, for contractual items that would come forward. And then as we have y'all approve the contract, then we just subtracted it from that $250,000. So we've been keeping a balance of that. But we've noticed that because some of the issues that are coming up, we want to move some money out of categories outside of that $250,000 to cover some contractual expenses. And we don't have to increase the budget. One of the things like Dr. Concher had put in $10,000 for just in case you needed an intern or you needed some contractual assistance for temporary service. We're not going to need that, and so we just kind of like to zero that line item out and put it where that $250,000 was, so that as contracts are needed, we have that money back and come back to you for each and every time. And so, do you want me to wait until that? Okay. So we do have some contracts that are becoming before you, and I don't know that you've approved it yet, but what we're talking about is a potential site visit contract that hasn't happened. We'll be bringing a other contracts that I don't know if you want me to go into what they are yet, or if we want to wait. But to cover those contracts, like I said, we were gonna take 15,000 out of the intern and temporary service budget line item, 10,000 out of the cornerstone line item, because we don't need as much money as we had anticipated for prior years. And then, the schoolworks applications are finished. And so, there's almost $43,000 left that we had set aside for that contract. And so we're ready to take that and move it into the other line items. And then finally, we had set aside $7,500 for court reporters and legal services. And we don't think we'll need but about half of that. So we're talking about moving that $350,000 back into that contractual. So that doesn't change anything in the budget at all. It just changes where you get your approvals. The only other thing that I would like to mention is that, as Dr. Comcheri pointed out, there are some contracts that were going to be paid out of the CSP. And so there's $26,000 for the policies and procedures review that has been performed that we had anticipated being out of the CSP. But we don't think we can pay it from the CSP now. So we'd like to move that to the operating budget, and we'd like to increase the operating budget by $26,000 to cover that cost. You have it in the appropriation. Your appropriation is $800,000 for the current year, and you only budgeted $688,000 of that. So what we're asking is you just to increase that budget, that $26,000, move it out of the CSP budget and into the operating budget.
I would say too that you, if you're looking at this, that was on your table, the latest report, the annual survey that NACSA did for us, you're going to get a report on that today, and the technical assistance of the evaluation of the authorizer practices. Those typically were paid from the CSP. Now, not all of that was budgeted originally into the CSP back in 2017, but a portion of the funds would have, at least a portion, would have come out of the CSP. Now we're going to have to move that into, like Denise said, our operating budget, which certainly impacts our ability to do other things. For example, we're not going to be in a position where we can provide much in terms of application support for our applicants, as we've done in the past, where you remember we had Professional Polish that did all of that work, and our pre-opening trainings for the schools that were in pre-opening, and that's going to be very limited in what we can provide for them. So I'm hopeful that the conversation that Jean and I had with Embark last week, that we will see some serious support out of Embark to be able to shore up those applicants so that they are ready to go through the cycle and provide a compelling application that gives our evaluators confidence that they're able to open and operate a high-quality charter school.
I had a question about the annual survey. Is that something that's required in law?
It is not required in
Okay.
law. It was written into the original CSP grant,
Okay.
and so it's not required.
Okay.
It's good information. It's great information to have, but it was not required.
Any other information or questions for Denise or?
No, it just, if you do adopt the revisions to the budget, then the next time I report to you, then you'll see the new budget line items.
Thank
And
you.
that's the last item on the agenda for today.
Right, okay,
Yeah,
yep.
okay. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
I feel like I'm reporting a little early, but because I'm actually
It's-
haven't all happened.
It's
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
Prep us for,
Yeah.
for what we're doing. Gotcha.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, it looks like we have one committee report from the Applications Committee. Jerry Mack.
Yes, thank you, Jean. I would like for the board to know that although the application committee has not met, I have been in conversation with Chair Cook and Dr. Comachire regarding the upcoming application cycle. And I am aware that Dr. Kay and Dr. Cook met with Embark this past week to discuss the same. It is my thought as chair that the committee engaged with Dr. Kay and the appropriate intervals during her work with the NACSA leaders in action in rethinking the new school application. This is a 12 to 18-month process that will take commitment and focus, but by working with NACASA and the other high-quality authorizers, we will be leading the way for other authorizers throughout the nation. This would simply mean the application and process remains the same for 2023, implementing the Phase 1 short-term recommendations from the NACSA, allowing a time and attention to detail necessary for future changes. That completes my report.
Okay, any questions? Okay, Karina, thank you. Okay,
Excuse me.
Oh, yes.
Did we get a motion outside of finance on the increase of the budget on the general operating budget?
It's on the last item on the agenda, but thank you, Donna. Good question.
so now we're going to hear a report from the technical assistance provider,
Mhm.
NACSA, on the annual stakeholder
Mhm.
survey results.
Yep.
And this will be via Zoom.
That's right, the
Okay,
Let them know we're ready, so we give it just a moment.
That's Gina Post from NACSA.
okay.
And I think that's Amy behind the mask and Sean. It is, there she is. Hey Gina, can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Uh-oh, Amy, I can't hear you.
Oh.
Having some echoes.
We may have a little feedback, and you guys are going to hear some drilling and jackhammering and all kind of stuff that they're working on our building. So.
Okay.
I think we're good.
Let me get this slide deck up and we'll start.
Mhm.
And I'm turning down my volume because the feedback is discrepancy. Sorry.
It's okay. Y'all take your time. And it's a delay.
I'm not sure how smooth this is going to
Maybe if we just all stay quiet.
Okay, so if I can, do I have the ability to share my screen from here?
Just mute us until we,
I have you on mute, yes.
so the feedback again is from their other.
It's from them.
Do you see that now? Yes, sorry, I'm struggling here. Okay, thank you, Amy. All right, so here we go. As you know, we did there was a survey, and so we're gonna start in with just some background information, and then we are gonna go into some of the recommendations. We will send this slide deck to you afterwards. It also has in it some of the survey observations, but in the interest of time, we thought we would move right to the recommendations, and that way we can allow for some time for questions at the end. Sean, sorry, your name didn't get on there. I'm Gina Post, Amy is here, and Sean is here, and we're gonna take turns going through this. All right, Amy, I'll turn it over to you, Karen. Still can't hear you. Want me to just go through it, Amy? All right, so as you know, there was a survey done a couple of years ago, and NAPSA took that on this year, partnering with the Survey Research Lab at Mississippi State University. There was the contact information that you all provided, and the participants were randomly drawn. There were two pools. There were the charter parents, and then there were the non-charter parents. And so one of the things we just want to emphasize as we go through this is the data that we're sharing is from the surveys. And so we only have the information from the survey participants. And so there are, all these other families that didn't have a voice in this. So when we talk about recommendations and observations, if that doesn't jive with what you're seeing in action, that's just a sign for you to dig in a little deeper to what may or may not be happening in practice. And just that the surveys are just that. They're the feelings, the perceptions, the belief of the people who did participate in the survey. You'll see at the bottom of a lot of these slides, we do refer back to the full report itself. So you can go back to that and refer to that for deeper details. So we are going to skip right to these overarching recommendations. So, generally we saw overwhelming positivity from parents regarding academics. There is an opportunity here for you to focus on the successes and sort of spread the wealth. You have a lot of things that were successful as you go through these results, things that are positive. And so that's an opportunity to take those things and build on them where it's going well. We also saw that there's the new performance framework that can be used to help find what those successes are and continue to build on that. Cautioning that you're going to try to do this without adding additional burden to the schools while doing this. And then the last one here is just with regards to the application cycle, the evaluation criteria, and then the capacity interviews. And I know that this is something that, Lisa, you're going to be working on with NAPSA in that cohort, so it sounds like that's a great match for you. All right, and results in the area of school climate and culture also show a commitment to positive, healthy, and supportive culture within the schools. Again, this is an opportunity for you to reflect on what's going well. So, there are a variety of things that come into play here, but it appears from the survey results that some or all of the schools are having success with these culture and climate elements, and that may be an opportunity to really focus in on what those successful points are, and then replicate them throughout the ecosystem. All right, Sean, is this you or is this me? Want me to keep going?
I can go for a few, I guess.
Yeah, go for it.
So we asked charter parents and non-charter parents about charter schools, whether they knew that charter schools were public schools and their support of charter schools. And generally we found that both charter parents and non-charter parents are not particularly familiar with or are misinformed about public charter schools. So they might think that they're private schools. They might even think that the school that their child is attending is a private school. So we would recommend that the charter office put out more information about charter and non-charter parents in the community about charter schools to dispel charter myths and to inform them. And also that the charter school office could review the recruitment materials each school uses to ensure that when they're recruiting, it's clear to parents that these are public charter schools, public schools, not private schools. Possibly you could develop messaging and templates and resources for all schools to use and include in their recruitment efforts. So there was a slight decline in rental satisfaction from the 2020 survey to the 2022 survey. Probably going to talk about grades later, but we see that there's also a decline in the grades they give. So fewer percentages of the parents giving the grades of their schools an A. So you may want to just track this. It's not a huge decline, but as the coming years occur, you don't want to see it continuing decline. And as we suggest here, that you might consider working with schools to identify specific reasons for the decline in satisfaction. If you continue to see a decline, it's just something to keep an eye on. You can take this if you like, Jan.
All right, so we're gonna go into just our conclusions here. So as I said at the beginning, overwhelmingly positive in most areas here, the awareness, satisfaction, and perception of school quality. There are opportunities to take what we've learned here and use that to continue to improve. By updating, we suggest here revising certain processes, and of course, updating the RFP is one of those. There are multiple strategies to implement to ensure that all communities within Mississippi can develop an awareness of not only the existence of charter schools in the state, but also the unique and powerful outcomes. And so going back to what was earlier in the slides, you did have a lot of, there was an increase, but still a lot of families who are not aware of what charter schools are. And that also is including the charter parents. And so that is certainly an opportunity. And then at the bottom, we just are suggesting that there is time to implement some updates and changes that will increase the outcomes and that families and students will be better served. We are going to leave some time for questions here, so I'm going to close this so I can maybe see your faces. And there we go. All right. So we do have time to take some questions.
Does anybody have a question? We can type it in the chat.
Okay, so we will send you the slide deck. Like I said, there were some other slides in there that just are a high overview of the outcomes, but we did want to make sure that we left time here for questions, so we chose not to go through those. But I will send that right to you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all.
Oh, and we just wanted to say that it's been a really good relationship between your office and NACSA. We feel like it's been very productive, and that the office has always been really open and sharing with your information. It was a good working relationship.
Well, thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all. They're a good
That
group.
was nice.
It was nice. They are a good group, really, to work with. They are a hardworking team, and they wear many hats, each one of them do. So Gina just joined them from Maine, I think. So she hasn't been with them very long, but yeah, a really good group. I would say, to piggyback, they were talking about the culture climate and how that was a really positive thing that came out in the results. And they didn't go into all the, gory details. There's a ton of data and detail that probably would have taken a long time to go through for you guys. So just hitting those high level information points were important. But taking those, she mentioned the framework. With the new framework, the schools have an opportunity, to use that site-selected optional indicator or school-selected optional indicator. And many of our schools are choosing to use something like a climate survey or a parent satisfaction survey. So we can actually capture that data and not have to burden the schools on anything and go back and see what is it that they're using and try to put together some best practices, for lack of a better term, for them to use and share among the schools that we have in the portfolio. So I think the framework will help it, and then having some additional conversations with the schools to build on the successes that the schools are seeing and share those successes among the portfolio. So good data, good information, and good opportunities.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, moving along. Doesn't look like we've had anyone sign up for public comments, so okay. So we'll move on to new business, and the first new business item is consider accepting the annual stakeholder survey results that we just heard.
Yes.
So I will entertain a motion for accepting the annual stakeholder survey results as presented by the technical assistant provider, Maxa.
So moved, Jennifer Whittier.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a second?
Second, Kimberly Freeman.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, next is to consider approval of Instant Impact Global Prep Charter Contract. Is there,
Second step in the phase. They were
Okay.
approved, now they have a contract, and once you sign it, then they'll be good to go.
Okay.
Official.
okay. I will entertain a motion for approval of the Instant Impact Global Prep Charter Contract for execution.
So moved.
Okay. Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second, Candace Robbins.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. All right, item C is to consider approval of Revive Prep contract amendment request.
Yeah, this is just a request for a material amendment to their contract to change the name from Revive Prep to Revive. So under the school name, the school will be able to serve in two different locations, one name. So the school will be named Revive, but they'll be able to serve the lower elementary on one campus and the upper elementary middle on another campus. And then they will be in compliance with MSIS and the reporting requirements for MDE as well as what we have. And so the only thing about this is just an amendment to keep them in compliance. And I think we should be good to go from there.
I have a question before I ask for a motion. So for the purposes, it's still one school, one LEA,
That's
gets
right.
one grade, one,
That's right.
okay.
One
all right.
school, one
Okay.
grade, one contract, one
One-
name, two locations.
Okay.
So,
All right, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the contract amendment request to change the name of Revive Prep to Revive.
So moved, Donovan.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a second?
Second, Kimberly Freeman.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. All right, next, item D is to consider approval of a Midtown contract amendment request.
yes, this is a request from Midtown for a material amendment to add kindergarten to continue building out their Edward Brooks Schools model. That's a K-8 model. And you know, you've made an allowance last year and approved an amendment for them to add fourth grade. And they've decided to go to K this time and build into, focusing on the early childhood piece of their work. You've got a lot of detail in that memo that they provided. So I just would recommend that the board consider approving that contract amendment as well.
I had a question about that one too.
Yeah.
Okay, so the charter is already for a K-8? Okay, and that was just a procedural thing. So even though they already have a charter for those grades, they still have to come back with a contract amendment for
They
each?
do, and here's why. Because what builds in after 5 years is the renewal. And so everything is going to be subject to renewal.
Okay,
And so the answer is yes, they
Okay.
would need to do that.
Okay.
So to continue.
all right. All right, I will entertain a motion for approval of the contract amendment request to change the grade served and school location.
So moved, Jennifer Whittier.
Okay, can I get a second?
I was just going to say, Jean, in addition, that if you go past 120% of your enrollment in the amendment, it's going to require you to do that too.
All right,
Second,
Second.
Candace Robbins.
okay, thank you. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion
Like I
carries.
said, your amendment, I mentioned.
Okay. All right, item E is to consider approval the Learning Collective proposal to conduct renewal evaluation support.
Yeah, this is just a proposal to work with the Learning Collective. We have not worked with them before, but they are an experienced team They've worked with authorizers in Central Michigan, at SUNY, in Tennessee, in New Orleans. The lead evaluator, Adam, has extensive experience, and then the other evaluator that will be a part of this has already done evaluation work for us back in 2019. She helped do the new school application cycle. So they come well-respected, well-experienced, and are well-positioned to conduct the renewal evaluations and then provide a report for the board that you all will be able to make a sound renewal decision on based on those reports. I do want to say publicly, and this is strictly for one of our school leaders who said, well, did you say that publicly? So I'm going to say it publicly. So this is just strictly to say, as a reminder, I wrote into the RFQ that our evaluators, whoever was selected for this work, needed to really consider the fact that we had COVID during this 5-year period. So the schools that are in a 5-year renewal, or in another school's case, they were in a conditional renewal and only had 3 years. 2 of those years were impacted by COVID. And so certainly the evaluators need to take that into consideration when they're reviewing their applications and have some level of grace and consideration as they go through that. So that is for the public, for him to know that I said that to you publicly as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, I will entertain a motion for approval of the proposal from the Learning Collective to conduct renewal evaluation support.
So moved.
Okay, thank you.
Don.
Can I get a second?
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Kimberly. Any discussion?
I have a question. So who currently does the evaluations?
We had different groups every time.
Okay.
So last year, we had independent evaluators. We had Lauren Iannicelli, and I want to say Kelly was a part of that work last year. And that would have been the year before, because we didn't have any renewals last year's cycle. It would have been the year prior, and that's who that was then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any
Mhm,
other,
sure.
any other questions? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. All right, next is F, consider approval of the Westlaw contract.
This is new for us because we now have a full-time counsel on staff, so this will help her in her work. And Amy, do you have anything you want to talk about, what that does for you and how that benefits you in your work? Anything you want to say?
I mean, it gives me access to all the legal knowledge that's out there, basically, which is really helpful in doing my job. It's traditional, something that's usually in a position for an attorney that I would have access to.
Yeah. It's a database of sorts, I think, that will really help her be able to cross-reference case law and make sure that she has access to everything that she needs to perform her duties.
Okay. I will entertain a motion for approval of the contract with Westlaw for legal support.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. All right, item G is to consider approval of the capital resources proposal.
Thank you. So if this proposal is approved, Capital Resources will be in a position to support us throughout the year in general governmental relations, reviewing and drafting legislation, monitoring legislation, briefing legislators, educating members of the legislature, educating, both the Senate and the House, and talking with folks and helping them understand what we do and what we can support and what we probably won't support. And then there are 2 areas in particular that I have already talked with them about, supporting the schools. So I've already had discussion with them. Those 2 particular items are areas that the school has asked us to advocate on their behalf for. And so those would be the 2 first priorities that I would ask them to focus on should the contract be approved.
As chair of the legislative committee, it's my understanding that many state agencies have full-time staff members dedicated to government relations, and those that don't contract out this work. So considering that MCSAB does not have a full-time staff member dedicated to building relationships with the legislature, telling our story, our successes and challenges and needs. I believe that working with capital resources will only enhance our standing in the legislature and in turn provide support for our schools. Therefore, I move that we accept the proposal as presented.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second, Jennifer.
Okay, any discussion?
So are we gonna make it known to all our schools that we have this ability to help them in this regard, that we have a permanent lobbyists now? For us, that's fine. I mean, but I think they could really provide assistance to the schools is where I see.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you, one of the things, like, Kimberly, I think will review this, and I know Jean will, but back when I first got here, we had a legislative task force, and it was just internal, and you know, there were two of us here, we had little time, little effort, that we couldn't be on the ground over there really working like that. So yes, we will do that, and like I said, the first two areas of priorities were brought to our attention, actually during a call with Jean, two specific areas that we can get them to help us on. But yes, a priority to help the schools. And I
just wanna
will
make
let
sure we
them.
reach out. to
Oh,
them all.
absolutely. Oh, sure.
Good point. Any other discussion points or questions?
I have a question.
Mhm.
Will we be given, information about the work that they're doing?
Oh, yes.
Will be updated?
Yes. And they, in fact, are willing to come and do a presentation and anything that you guys would like to see, they're more than willing. I know Reed and Pete would be happy to do that. Do you want to talk about Pete at all, just as experience knowing him and working with him? or-
Sure, yeah, so Pete Smith was
Yeah,
one of the people who'll be working under this contract. This
Right.
work is a long time worked at, in this role at the MDE, and knows all the people and all the
Mhm.
issues, so seems like the perfect person to.
Some sort of regular update would be great.
I think so too. Okay.
All right, so all those in favor?
Okay.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. All right, and then lastly, or almost lastly, is to consider approval of the FY '23 budget modification that we talked about earlier. Any more to say about that? or
Unless there's a question about that.
I'm ready to make a motion unless there's not any more discussion to move that we accept the budget modification that was presented here today.
Can I get a second?
Second, Jennifer.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. All right, our next regularly scheduled meeting will be on January 30th, 2023 at 1 p.m. here at 239 North Lamar Street, Suite 207, Jackson, Mississippi, 39201. And now I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Jennifer.
All right, can I get a second?
Second, Johnson.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you so much.
Merry
Yes,
Christmas.
Merry
Happy
Christmas. Can't believe it's Christmas time.
Can't believe that. It feels like summer.